Hi folks, name's Mike. I'm here today to talk to you about 2014 Kawasaki Vulcan Vaquero and speaker installation, whatnot, amp installation. Doing that is because I really couldn't find a whole lot online about how to do this. 2 years ago, I installed my punch amp, Rockford Fosgate, and PBR 300 X4 does a great job for me. I was only using 2 channels then, just ran off the 2 speakers in the fairing. I did replace those, although the OEM speakers were half decent quality. Wanted to go with a Polk Marine. Heard a lot of good things about Polk Marine. Put those in there. Very impressed. Not only was I impressed with the speaker, but I was impressed with their customer service. Me not being a car stereo guy, stereo installer, an electrician, any of those things, I believe when I originally hooked them up that I did something incorrectly with the amp and I caused one of the speakers to blow. So I reached out to Polk and I told him what happened, and the guy walked me through it, said it sounds like you did this. He's like, but here's a new speaker, and they shipped me a new speaker even though it was my fault. So good looking out, Polk. That led me to buy more Polk speakers. Not only that, but they're marine speakers. I wouldn't tell you, I'm not going to tell you they're waterproof, but I know they're water resistant. I haven't had any problems with these as far as rain goes in the last 2 years. Hopefully I won't have any problems with my new ones either, even though they're probably going to get a little bit more wet. All right, so let's start at the beginning, shall we? Rockford Fosgate amp installed. I had to make my own bracket to install this. I just used a piece of L bracket, angle iron, whatever it's called. Was able to mount that up here. Fairing still fits in great. No problems at all. Nothing gets in the way. Been running that way for a couple of years. About a month ago, I decided that I wanted more speakers. I don't necessarily need to get louder, because I'm not going to be one of those assholes you see riding down the street that wake up the whole neighborhood. What I want is to be able to hear my music clearer. I like a good quality sound. So this is what I'm shooting for. So engineering adapters, I think it's engineered adapters online makes a mount. They make it out of 3D printing. Kind of pricey. I wish they had made them a little cheaper, especially 3D printing. They're one-offs. I mean, it's not that hard to make. But $100. $100 is what I spent. They also sell a wiring kit, which is $20, $25, something like that. I didn't buy it. I recommend you do. Honestly, it just would have made things a little simpler for me down here. Wiring everything up. Not a big deal. Probably only would have saved me about 20 minutes. But you got that pin connector. It just would have been a better setup. It would have made more sense. And for 20 bucks, why not? All right. So back to the bike. All right. So putting in the speakers, the front speakers 2 years ago was super easy. Just tapped into the speaker line, ran them into the amp, ran them out of the amp, into your speakers. That worked great. Back speakers are a little bit different. As you can see here, had to come off the head, had to tap in to where the wires are coming out of the head of the stereo. Super tight in there. Try to leave as much length as you can so that you can get in there, get some heat shrink on there, waterproof that up, get your solder going. All these connections are soldered. So then that runs back here where you have 2 connectors. You can see I have 2 connectors here that aren't being used. These are actually for CBUs and passenger to driver communications. But what I use is in underneath there, as you can see, I I try to make sure everything's waterproof. So I do heat shrink, I do tape. I don't want anything coming loose. I don't want anything getting wet. I don't want to have to work on this again. So as you can see, I got my speaker wires running off. One goes in under here into my left saddlebag. One goes off into here into my right saddlebag. Not sure if you can see down in there. There we go. You can see where the speaker wires are going through. Got to get a little grommet, put a grommet in there, both for water protection as well as to protect those speaker wires in case they move around a little bit. Nice thing is the connections here actually have I think it's a 2-pin connector. I didn't know what kind of connector it was, didn't know where to get the connector. Like I said, this is not what I do. I just have half a brain, so I like to do things on my own. So I ended up cutting these connectors off. If you buy that wiring harness from Engineered Adapters like I told you about, you won't have to clip those off. You just plug and go. Instead, I didn't buy it, didn't want to wait for it. Cut them off, soldered, heat shrink, electrical tape. We're all good to go. We've got sound down here. And you will hear that right in here in just a second. So, as you can see, definitely got sound to my speakers. Everything's in here nice and tight. Wiring is all good. I've already put everything away. I got some zip ties in here. I got to clip them off. I forgot to do that. And now I'm about to adjust my amp. But we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into amp adjustment because that's not what I do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look up a video, try to figure out how to do it. Let's talk. So, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but my poor bike here, it's very dusty because it sat for about 30 days before I actually got the balls up to cut holes in these saddlebags. This bike wasn't cheap. Anything plastic when you're drilling in really scares me. But there you have it. I used I put the adapters into place. Engineered Adapters has on their website tells you to position them up against the side of the saddlebag like this and then slide it forward until it falls into place. And believe it or not, it literally does that. When you put that there and pull it down, you will feel it get into position. And as soon as it's there, you clamp it into place, drill a couple of the holes, put your screws in, drill the other two. And then what I did was I left this adapter in place. Left it in place, marked my center, drilled a hole with about an 1/8 inch bit, and then I actually just used a 5-inch hole saw on the end of my Craftsman drill. As you can see, not the best setup, probably not the best hole saw that I could have used. And honestly, I went to Lowe's, one of those big box stores, if you will, to get a nice quality cutting hole saw. But it would have cost me $60. The hole saw was $40, and then the drill bit adapter was another $20. So I was like, $60 just seems like an awful lot of money. I bought a new blade for my spiral saw. It was like, worst case scenario, I'll use that. I came back after charging the battery on my Craftsman saw. It worked well. Got a little warm. Still got both of the holes drilled. Holes drilled well. Sanded around them a little bit to get rid of any of that plastic that kind of melted a little bit. And with that 5-inch, those speakers dropped in there perfectly. I mean, so perfectly that I was impressed with myself. So worked out very well for me. Was able to do them on both sides. Speakers are going, speakers are hooked up, and everything's said and done. If there's any of you guys out there that are doing this kind of thing and are worried about it or don't know how to drill into it, are nervous, want to know how to get these speakers on here, highly recommend these adapters from Engineered Adapters, and just do it. Get yourself a nice sharp drill bit for initial holes. Try to find a nice sharp hole saw. Go slow. Don't try to rush through it. It is made of some sort of plastic, composite material. I don't know exactly, but it does melt if you go too fast. So take your time, drill the holes. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. Thanks.